We're here at the Generator where my studio is located in the south end of Burlington. I've been a part of the Generator community since my artist in residence last fall, and I'm excited to give you a tour of my studio now. I share the space with fellow artist Raph Bryce, and here I can work out new ideas, create meaningful friendships, and focus on piecing together ambitious projects. I've always worked in tight spaces throughout college and before, even in high school, either in my bedroom or in the corner of my apartment. I'm really lucky that now I have a dedicated space to create some new work. Part of my process has always been mapping out different ideas or sketches through a process I like to call oil monotype printmaking, which uses plexiglass and oil paint to kind of place color loosely, create different kinds of compositions and landscapes, and kind of work out the kinks of what I hope to take onto a larger canvas. To me, this process is very meditative and exploratory and allows me to work out some of my ideas on paper. Printmaking has always been one of those mediums that keeps my work grounded and takes me into new places. So here I'm setting up the plexiglass. Once you have your plexiglass painted and kind of ready to go, the paint should still be pretty wet, and I use linseed oil to make sure that it stays wet. And that's like one of the perks, because that way you can play around with color, and then you'll see once I print it, we'll get a first relief image, and then you can kind of play around with it. You can go back into the plate and change colors if you want. So it's a really flexible process. But basically you just lay it down. Once it's on there, you don't want to touch it really. And then you grab your handheld press, and you just kind of start. I usually like to start kind of towards the bottom. Give it a couple good presses. And then when you're ready, peel her away. And it turns out really loose. It's a nice way to kind of map out. You get an idea and a feel for the color and the space, and it kind of changes your approach, and it keeps you on your toes because it's not so delicate. Here I'm showing some of my older works that were my original exploration of incorporating embroidery into some of my paintings. I've embroidered directly onto the canvas for most of these pieces, and these tiny paintings make one whole picture of an outdoor picnic table on a typical summer's day in my grandparents' garden. Generations of Hungarian women in my family have embroidered traditional patterns and motifs as a way to preserve local cultures and communities, and using this in a contemporary way has been a powerful way to connect with my own understandings of self. Let's take a look at some close-ups of newer work. I've always been interested in capturing the female experience, and specifically my own experiences through growing up between Hungary and America. There's a complexity of the identities in traditional spaces, and I tried my best to capture feelings of nostalgia, belonging, and making sense of my own identity over time. Witnessing generational change over time has been a fascinating subject to me. This piece, Cherry Harvest, is dedicated to that changing of tides. Digging into family stories and history can make me feel deeply connected to what I create, and my pieces often feature scenes in spaces that feel familiar. Thanks for taking a look into my process and for checking out my studio.